Welcome back to Sawbones Barbecue. It has been a long minute since we did a cook. I call it winter. Too many months of cooking on cast iron and sous videing things, and finally we have a nice early spring day, so it's time to do some outdoor cooking. And with St. Patrick's Day coming up, I figured a good way to start would be some corned beef brisket. I was on the Snake River Farms website. They have a pretty good corned beef that they do that's all pre-seasoned for you. So I thought I would follow the first rule of government spending. Why buy one when I could buy two at twice the price? So we got 2 chunks of corned beef that's all pre-seasoned and ready to cook. We're gonna do one of them the way they recommend, which is a stovetop prep, where you basically simmer it in whatever you like. You could just use water, or if you're more creative, you could do a stout beer, you can do apple cider or vinegar. So we're gonna do 1 chunk of the corned beef on the stove the way Snake River Farms recommends. And then the other one we're going to do on the smoker, because why not? We'll see which one's tastier. I have a feeling I know the right answer, but I'm biased, so we'll see. And since it's St. Patrick's Day, we got to have something green. I'm not a big cabbage fan. Cabbage doesn't do much for me other than create entertainingly loud farts. So we're not doing cabbage, but we got to have something green. So we're going to do Brussels sprouts. Bacon, cheese, we'll dress them up, we'll make them tasty. I have a good technique for cooking those, so we'll get a side dish going with our corned beef and we'll see how we do. We've had the brisket on the smoker for about 2 hours and 15, 2.5. We're starting to hit a stall in the 160s, which is pretty normal for a brisket. So in the spirit of time and also tenderness, we're gonna use the Texas crutch and do the second phase of the cook in a foil boat, which will get the cooking done a little bit faster and also hopefully keep it nice and juicy and tender. So we're going to take the meat out and get the foil boat going next. It's starting to get a nice red color on it. Not really barky per se, because it's only been a couple hours, but it's got a beautiful color to it. See if I can get this transferred without burning my hands. So I've got a foil boat ready to go, just a couple layers of heavy duty foil. And then I'm going to give it just about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar just to keep it moist in the foil boat. We'll get a little splash of that on there. Doesn't need to be swimming in it, just enough to keep everything juicy. That should be about enough. For a small piece like this, 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup tops. And then we're gonna get the lid on our foil boat here, like so. I don't wrap it super tight, but just tight enough that the liquid is kind of concentrated underneath the meat and not just swimming out the edges. So I'm not real fancy about it, just about like that, a nice tight pouch. We'll get that back on the smoker. And we have been at 225, and now that we're in the last phase, I'm gonna crank it up to 250 just to get this process done. So back we go, and that should do it. All right, the brisket chunks are done. We've got both of them resting inside, and now we're gonna finish up the side dish. We're doing the smoky bacon Brussels sprouts. So I've got the smoked bacon pre-cooked and ready to go, cheese, butter, sprouts. As far as prepping the sprouts, I just take a heavy cast iron pan, put a thin layer of olive oil in the entire bottom of the pan, and then sprinkle salt all over it, sprinkle garlic powder all over that, crack some pepper on it, and then place the sprouts kind of face down, half sprouts all face down, covering the whole pan. And then the idea is just to cook it over really high heat till they start to get brown on the bottom. So I'll take a check as they're cooking. And then once they start to brown on the bottom, we're gonna stir them all up with some butter and then add the cheese and bacon and cover it to kind of melt a little bit. So we're gonna start with direct heat and then move to indirect heat. So I took the cover off the grate so we can get flame coming up. Now we're gonna get the pan directly over the fire and get this nice and hot. It'll take a couple of minutes. And then once we get that screaming hot, it'll only take about 2 minutes to sear the sprouts before we move on to melting the goods on top. So we got the pan nice and hot. Once it gets hot, it only takes a minute or two. And I'm checking the bottom and they'll get a nice golden brown on them. And when they start getting golden brown on the bottom, then you're ready to stir in the rest of the goods, cover it up and switch to indirect heat. So we're gonna get some butter in there and then stir them up a little bit. and then we'll cover and go to indirect heat. Oh yeah, they look nice and golden brown on the bottom. This should be a good batch. Get the butter stirred in there. I'll give them just a little less than a minute left on the direct heat. So we've got them all simmered here. Now we're going to add the cheese and bacon and then switch them over to indirect heat and just let it melt a little, and then it's done. So we'll spread them out, get the bacon in there. And get the cheese. All right, I got the fire covered up. I'm gonna put them on the far side of the smoker, just indirect heat, and just give the pan a minute or two just to let the cheese melt on there, and then they're ready. We're done, we've got everything sliced and ready for tasting. We have the first brisket chunk was done with the pan technique. I did it in a mix of 50-50 apple cider vinegar and water. I'm thinking in retrospect that's too much on the vinegar and not sweet enough. I probably should have done some apple cider in there, because this has come out with a little bit of a vinegar taste to it. But it's not bad, to be honest with you. Definitely tender. I was concerned that the one coming out of the pan would end up being tough because it went to a finishing temperature of 190, unlike the one we did on the barbecue, which went all the way to 203, 204, like we would do for a brisket. But the one that was simmered in the pan was about 3 hours, water temp of 190, the meat finished at 190. And the tenderness is actually really good. It does not suck. I just think there's a little bit of more vinegar flavor to it than I would like. So if I were to do that again, probably apple cider or maybe some kind of beer. Not quite as bitter as vinegar. Now we have the one that was done on the smoker. We smoked that open until it hit the stall in the 160s. Then we did a foil boat until a finishing temperature of 203, 204. Tenderness wise, it seems quite similar. A little bit of smoke flavor to it. Certainly not the smoke flavor you'd associate with a normal brisket, like full-on bark and everything. But that, I suppose, is not what you would expect for a corned beef. It does get some nice smoke flavor. Very little vinegar flavor since it only had that half cup in there in the foil boat. So a much milder flavor, smoky, similar tenderness. If pressed, I would say the barbecue one is definitely better. But I think the stovetop method was good, like proof of concept, that worked just fine. I just need a different liquid because that came out a little bit bitter with all that vinegar. So the winner is definitely the barbecue one. And now for the sprouts, I'm very excited about these. They look great. I usually do them stovetop, so doing it on the smoker was kind of a new thing. But I think they've come out very nicely. So I'm gonna get a little sample bite here. Excellent. Definitely a worthy side dish. They came out just right. A little bit of smokiness and the bacon and cheese tastes great on those sprouts, not overcooked. I wouldn't say corned beef is my favorite thing in the world, but this has come out better than I was expecting. Kind of happy about that, and the sprouts technique is one I'll definitely try again. So there you have it. Thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you'll get a notice when our next video comes out. Until then, I wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day.